Thank you for joining us for the second session in our four-part webinar series. While the series is designed as a connected learning journey, each session also works independently. You'll gain valuable insights whether you watch and engage with one session or all four. Let me begin by sharing a little background about our work. At the Knowles Teacher Initiative, we believe great teaching changes lives. Since 1999, we've supported math and science teachers who work to improve education for all students. Our Teaching Fellows program helps early career high school math and science teachers build lasting expertise and leadership skills. The Knowles Academy offers professional learning opportunities created and facilitated by teachers, along with tailored services for schools and districts. Together, we're building a strong, connected community of educators. We're excited today to engage with you in your own professional learning by sharing aspects of our work. I'm Gina Wilson from the Knowles Teacher Initiative, and today we're talking about how to develop collaborative relationships with colleagues in order to strengthen equitable instruction. This webinar is interactive and designed for you to do independently or with a small group. Throughout the webinar, I'll note places that you can pause the video to engage in the activities before returning. All of the materials you will need can be found by using the QR codes that will be seen on the slides or on the resources page on our website. If you're seeing this video on our YouTube page, the link to the resources is in the video description. Today we'll be exploring and using the collaboration guide for early career STEM teachers. You will develop an understanding of the collaboration guide. Well, initially you might think that this guide is only for working within classrooms or content teams. The reality is that collaboration around problems of practice can impact schools at any level. In the first webinar in this series, Identifying Leverage Points for Change, Jim discussed ecological models and systems thinking framework. And this collaboration guide can be used to intentionally create relationships within a school, district, region, state, or even the national education community as you think about the ecological and systems thinking frameworks. As the name suggests, this tool guides teachers in thinking strategically about how to develop relationships that are new or current to support and improve equitable instruction. Next, we'll use the guide to address a problem of practice in your context. If you are a classroom teacher, this might be working with colleagues across grade level, content, or even school-wide teams to adjust instruction to better meet student needs. If you're an administrator or instructional coach, your problem of practice might be working with colleagues, or it might be supporting teachers in developing their own collaborative relationships. And finally, we'll share what some of our teaching fellows, who are all early career math and science teachers, have said about their use of the collaboration guide. So let's get started. Teaching practices can be developed through many avenues. And at Knowles, one way we support early career teachers in improving their practice is through collaborative inquiry, which is the focus of the following webinars in this series. We develop strong cohort communities within our teaching fellowship, including teaching our fellows how to be critical friends during discussions of instructional methods, content, and the impact of identity on teaching. However, fellows often share their challenges in transferring these skills to their relationships with school colleagues. Teaching can be an isolating profession, though teachers making impacts in the education system, myself included when I was in the classroom, will tell you that teaching at its best is a collaborative endeavor. As a person for whom education is a second career, I also experienced a significant culture shock around collaboration norms and logistics when I left engineering to teach middle school and high school math. After I read Dare to Lead by Brené Brown, I was struck by the idea of clear is kind and unclear is unkind. Since then, I've used that idea in all aspects of my work, and this idea is one of the driving forces behind this work of developing structures to support effective collaborative relationships. Before we continue, I invite you to take a moment to think about a successful collaborative relationship you've had at work. How did you contribute to the relationship? How did others contribute? And what other factors had an impact on this relationship? If you have additional time, consider also reflecting on a less successful collaboration and identify components that contributed to challenges in that collaboration. You can now pause the video and return when you're ready. Welcome back. Early career teachers often experience risk and uncertainty when initiating conversations around problems of practice and engaging with more veteran colleagues. Collaborative relationships with colleagues can be developed in service of many things. And we ask our teaching fellows to focus on strengthening equitable teaching practices in their school community. However, this guide can be applied to any type of project. To begin developing a collaboration, you need to address 2 decision points. The first one is what you want to share at the beginning of the relationship. For our teaching fellows, this is knowledge they have generated through their collaborative inquiry work. However, you may choose anything to share as the basis of this relationship. The second one is who you want to share this information with. As we've discussed, at Knowles, we have chosen to generate knowledge about our teaching practice through collaborative inquiry. We have a scaffolded process over the course of the fellowship to support fellows in gradually assuming more control over their work. Where we recently ran into challenges, though, was when we began asking fellows to cultivate or strengthen collaborative relationships in their school communities. Fellows shared that this was difficult because they are positioned differently in their school communities than they are in the teaching fellowship. This led to the creation of the collaboration guide, with reflection questions to help fellows determine why collaboration is important in their context, who they want to collaborate with and why, and the impact of identities and community dynamics, norms, and culture on collegial relationships. Once fellows have determined the basis of their collaboration, they create a timeline for implementing this collaboration. Tasks on the timeline could include activities such as inviting someone to lunch, creating data or resources to share, or even exploring and learning new leadership skills in support of this work. Now is your opportunity to explore the collaboration guide. You can access the guide through the QR code on the slide, the resources page on our website, or if you are seeing this video on our YouTube page, the link in the video description. As you explore the guide, consider how this guide helps you determine what to collaborate around, why collaboration is important for that issue or concern, who to collaborate with and why, and how identities impact community dynamics, norms, and culture, and how all of those things impact collaboration. If you are watching this session with a group, we also encourage you to take some time to share your thoughts with each other. You can pause the video and return when you are ready. Now that you are familiar with the guide, it's time to use the guide in a way that's relevant to your context. As you use the guide, remember that it is not linear. You can enter anywhere and work back and forth between the sections. If you are a teacher or a pre-service teacher, we have some suggestions for you. Use the collaboration guide to create a plan for collaborating with at least one colleague. Try to use at least one prompt in each category. And you can reflect about collaboration, your teaching practice, or your educational community as you plan. If you are a coach, administrator, or education preparation provider, consider how you could use the collaboration guide to support early career teachers navigating risk and uncertainty when starting conversations around teaching practices with more veteran colleagues. Also, consider your contexts or your program's areas of strength and potential areas of growth that can be supported by using the guide. Again, if you're watching this session with a group, we encourage you to share your thoughts and perspectives with each other. After you have created a plan, it is worth considering next steps. Will you implement this plan? What are your feasible next steps to do that? Whose help or support, if any, do you need? If you are attending this webinar with colleagues, we encourage you again to take a few minutes and share your ideas, paying attention to new and unexpected perspectives from others and possible next steps as a group. You can pause the video now and return when you are ready. Welcome back. I hope the planning was really productive. With our goal of removing barriers and starting conversations around practice in order to support more intentional and productive interactions, we wanted to share what our fellows said as they began using the collaboration guide and then after they implemented their plans. However, before we do that, we want to share how we facilitate the use of new tools with our teaching fellows. We use a process very similar to the one we used in this session. First, we explain the tool and its purpose, which is the guide in this case. Then we give them time to explore and think about the guide. This is often individually or in pairs. And that is followed by a whole group discussion of the tool. Sometimes small groups, but typically a whole group discussion. And at that point, we implement the tool, much like you did when you made your plan. And then they gather feedback on their plans from each other and make any necessary or wanted revisions. So after their initial exploration and planning with the guide, fellows felt the guide made collaboration more accessible. One fellow said, "Who, what, when, where prompts made it less daunting. This is a scary process, and the prompts helped." Another said, "The when and where were good to talk about because so many different places to open collaboration and need for a relationship before we can really collaborate." And a third fellow said, "I appreciate the dedicated time to really make a plan for collaboration. It feels a bit overwhelming, but breaking it down and really processing the steps I need to take to make it successful with a lot of different people made the overall process a bit easier to stomach." Fellows also shared some hopes and fears, namely the hope that they could inspire colleagues to adopt new practices and foster deeper discussions about student needs. They shared fears that included colleagues dismissing their ideas or not being willing to engage in collaborative work. And centered around one fellow's experience of changing schools and entering a very different environment than they were expecting, one group wondered, how can we modify this collaboration guide when it feels like collaboration is impossible or unsafe? We also asked fellows about their thoughts after implementing their plans and talking with their colleagues. Remember that their end goal was to create a collaborative relationship with someone at work. They reported that their conversations and interactions mostly aligned with expectations, and that sometimes they didn't always lead to immediate change. Fellows noted the positive impacts on relationships with colleagues, including more potential for future collaborations and new opportunities for collaboration that resulted from their initial conversations. And these were often very unexpected opportunities for collaboration. And fellows reported an increased desire to continue with collaboration, and many made immediate plans and enacted those plans for new collaborations with different colleagues. Of significant note is that fellows thought that these collaborations would positively impact student outcomes. One fellow shared, "We were able to share more strategies and plan for continuing reflections next year." Another shared, "I hope that this conversation will lead to more community connection within the STEM field and our classes." And yet a third shared, "We can collaborate in our role as teachers to combat academic status in our classrooms, especially as a result of gender identity." As an organization that supports early career STEM teachers, we learned several things. One is that using this collaboration guide supported fellows in believing their school colleagues could be thought partners around equitable teaching. We went from 60% of fellows reporting that statement as true to a very great extent or great extent, that's the dark green and light green sections, to 94% of those descriptors. And you'll notice in the second group, there is no orange, which is the descriptor of a slight extent. We also learned that our early career teachers really value collaboration. They want to continue strengthening their own collaboration skills, and they want more structured collaboration time at school. This was true across our fellows, including those that already have strong collaborative structures in place at school and those that do not. Fellows did share some concerns, however, including that time constraints and scheduling conflicts really impede collaboration, and a continuing worry that colleagues will not want to engage in this work. Now that we've shared our experiences and you've had some time to think about your own plan, you may want to pause and make some revisions or tweaks. If you are with a group, again, we suggest discussing your revisions and rationale with each other. Feel free to pause the video and return when you are ready. Welcome back. So today we really dove into how to create collaborative relationships with colleagues by thinking about factors you might not have previously considered. We hope that this collaboration guide is helpful to you in your practice and in creating stronger learning communities to benefit your students. We also want to share that there are more opportunities to continue to deepen your learning. First, there are additional webinars that will be a part of this series. Second, if you are or know of an early career high school math or science teacher, the application for our 2026 Teaching Fellowship is open through January 6, 2026. If you are viewing this after that date, you can sign up to be alerted for when our next application cycle opens for the 2027 cohort. Finally, you can learn more about other professional learning opportunities we provide, including online courses and in-person events, by visiting the Knowles Academy page on our website. Again, thank you for engaging in our webinar today.